was about halfway through the Sisterhood of War Part 2, when yesterday happened, and nearly everything got revealed. Lillia, the fawn-like champion, was confirmed to be real, she got her story on Universe, and we even got her teaser. And since people enjoy when I explain cinematics, I decided to do the same with this one as well. On top of that, Lillia's story is nothing but references to old stories. And this teaser also has quite a few Easter eggs. But before we get into that, I also quickly wanna mention that Surrender 20 and all the data miners found a lot more than was shown. For example, in the Spirit Blossom skin series, there is a legendary skin for Thresh. And that skin has an interaction with Yone, or Yone, as they pronounce it.
Worry not, Yone. Your little brother is safe with me too.
But there's more. There was also another leak for Yone's skin. We don't know what the classic version of him looks like, but this is the Spirit Blossom version. What's also cool is that in Yasuo's Spirit Blossom skin, if you look at the water reflection, you can actually see that something different is happening there. The blade is different and someone is grabbing the kettle. So I believe that reflection is Yone. So yeah, it's real. And to be honest, I just really wanna see how well can Riot pull Yone off. It's not impossible. If they are smart about it, there are ways that they can do it, but I just hope that Riot knows what they are doing. But anyway, we'll talk about it next time, because today we need to have a look at Lillia's champion teaser. So without further ado, let's get right into it. The teaser starts with a little branch with a magical bud on top of it. Now you may be thinking that this is a Spirit Blossom, but according to Lillia's bio, that may not be exactly that. You see, as I mentioned before, Lillia's bio is full of references. There are references to Ivern, the God Willow, Omikayalan, there is a mysterious lone figure, there is the Garden of Forgetting, and the list just keeps going. Anyway, the point is that her bio never mentions a Spirit Blossom actually. It only talks about a different kind of blossom that gathers dreams. You see, in the second part of the Sisterhood of War series, it was confirmed that the way the Spirit Blossoms work is that if someone dies, their spirit can choose to go into a bloom and wait for the blossom season to bloom and to communicate with the living. But these buds that we see here only gather people's dreams, not their souls. So these flowers are technically full of human ambitions. And just for context, Lillia was born from one of these flowers. One of these dreams, before it had a chance to bloom, it fell on the ground and it grew into an awkward fawn. And that bloom is what Lillia has on her head. But anyway, we will talk about Lillia's bio more in the next video. Now, finally, let's go through the teaser.
Mother Tree has shown me dreams of the world outside my garden.
You may also notice that Lillia mentions Mother Tree. And Mother Tree is a special tree that grew from a branch from the God Willow. Again, you may remember that the God Willow is tied to Ivern. And in fact, it was Ivern who helped grow Mother Tree. And then, as Lillia talks about the fact that everything has a little light inside them, by which Lillia is most likely talking about the souls of things. Here, of course, you can see Teemo, because Teemo is a Yordle, and Yordles are heavily tied to the spirit realm. They use a special kind of spirit magic to go into Bandle City. And in fact, it is theorized that Bandle City itself is somewhere between the spirit realm and the physical realm. But you may be wondering, why do we see Spirit Blossom Teemo here? Well, the explanation is actually quite confusing. You see, in the background you see the real Teemo, while in front of him and then behind him, you see the Spirit Blossom version of him. And that's because even though the Spirit Blossom Teemo is a skin, according to the skin's description, there is also a legend about a mischievous spirit in Ionia. Now, even though the skin's description calls this spirit Teemo, I don't think that means that Teemo himself is actually a legendary spirit of Ionia. I think that's just for the purpose of the skin making sense. Because right now, the theory goes that the Spirit Blossom skins are not canon themselves, but they are based on stories and legends from Ionia. And you'll see what I mean by this as we go through the other skins that also appear here. I told you it's gonna be a bit confusing, but let's keep going.
They've taught me that all of us have a little sparkle.
Then there is a transition to the moon, which right now could have different meanings. But for the most part, the moon actually acts as a reflection of the spirit realm. As far as we know, there are two moons. There is the real moon that people see from Runeterra, and then there is the other copy of the moon which you can only see from the spirit realm. However, these two different versions of the moon orbit at different paces. And it is only when they cross each other in both the physical realm and the spirit realm that magical things happen on Runeterra. And I think that's why we saw the moon here.
That precious light lives on, even when we sleep.
Anyway, then there is a transition to the deer frog. And here Lillia says that the light inside things shines even when they sleep. By which you may think that this frog is just sleeping, even as its soul is literally leaving its body. And I wouldn't blame you. Lillia's story is all about dreams. In fact, she has the ability to read people's dreams. But then, this happens. It zooms out to reveal very familiar masks. And now you may be saying, hey, we've never seen this before. But that's not quite true. Because if you remember the Perennial story, if you look at the mask that the main character has on her head, and if you remember how the story described that mask that she had, you may realize that this in fact is the Taker, one of the gods from the Ionian underworld. From the Perennial story you may also remember the Collector and the Gatekeeper. And here I hope I don't make a mistake, because I mixed up the names quite a few times as I was tweeting about this. But essentially, Ionians believe in three entities that take care of the dead, with the Taker, which is shown here, being the god that is there every time something dies. But here is where things get quite amazing. Of course we are talking about the Ionian gods of the underworld, but we know that Kindred are the ultimate god of death. No matter what kind of living being dies, they always have to meet Kindred at the end, even Aurelian Sol himself. Which might give you the idea that the Taker is in fact the Ionian version of Kindred all along. And in fact, I'm pretty confident in confirming for you that yes, that is the case. This is Kindred. Because besides all the Spirit Blossom skins that were already revealed, in the data we could find a lot more. So besides Yone, we already know about a future Spirit Blossom skin for Cassiopeia, Ahri, which makes sense because Ahri appeared in the Perennial story as well, but there is also a skin for Kindred. We only have the emote for them, but they perfectly match this look. Which means that theoretically, the Spirit Blossom skin for Kindred is canon, because that is how people picture Kindred in Ionia. And that is simply amazing. As a nice bonus, it is very much probable that because both Thresh and Ahri are getting a legendary skin, it is likely that they are based on the Collector, who collects the souls of the dead, and the Gatekeeper, the fox-like shepherd of those souls. You may also realize that because we see Kindred behind this little deer frog, I am pretty sure it is not dreaming and it actually died. Why else would it meet death? And then there is a quick transition to this, just as Lillia talks about how our soul shines when we are facing the darkest nightmare. Yes, this is not a new champion, this is in fact Riven. We know this because she has the little horn on her head, and it matches her emote as well. Because yes, even though she did not appear on PBE yet, Riven was also leaked in the files. But you may be asking, who the heck is the guy behind her? To which I have to say, I really wish that this would be Yone. But I do think that this is actually the legendary skin for Thresh. Because in-game, even though in the art he looks like a human, he wears a mask that actually fits this. So now you may be asking, why is there another skin in Lillia's reveal trailer? Well, obviously it is because Riot wants to sell more skins. But lore-wise? Because these trailers are actually supposed to be reflecting the story? I am actually quite confused. Since Lillia mentions that this could be a nightmare, this might actually be one of Riven's dreams. At the same time, the next champion who was supposed to be possessing people, which turned out to be Yone, would fit whatever is happening here. This ghastly nightmare seems to be possessing Riven. But at the same time, there's a totally different way we can explain this. Again, with Teemo having his own Ionian legend, and with the Kindred skin being a canon description of themselves. Why couldn't this skin be another Ionian legend? There is still the legend of the two brothers, which will be heavily linked to Yasuo and Yone. And I do believe that the Spirit Blossom Yone and Yasuo will actually be the canon reflection of that legend. So here, Riven could be another one of these. I am just not quite sure which one it would be.
But now those dreams have stopped. And Mother Tree is dying.
And then Lillia mentions that the dreams have stopped, and that Mother Tree is dying. And that was explained in her bio. It's because when the war arrived, people started dying, and suddenly there was less people to dream. And when they dreamed, they didn't have hopeful dreams at all. It was mostly nightmares. And so one of the reasons why Mother Tree is dying is because she's not empowered by the dreams anymore. On top of that, from Rakan and Zaya's story, which was actually updated, you may remember how the Shadow Order and Zed were draining the land of its magic, and everything was turning black and grey. Well, that could be one of the reasons why Mother Tree is dying as well. The Shadow Order, for one reason or another, we don't know, is still draining the land's magic. And perhaps with Lillia's story, that plot point could be pushed forward.
I can do this. I can brave the world beyond my garden.
And then the video ends with Lillia deciding to walk out into the world, which was actually also explained in her bio. The reason why she is so hesitant is because she had spent her entire life nursing the tree and taking care of the dreams. But now that people stopped dreaming, instead of Lillia waiting for the dreams to arrive at her garden, she decided to walk out into the world and bring the dreams to people. That's why her abilities are to make people fall asleep. She is trying to give them hopeful dreams. But at the very end, as we get a zoom in on a city with lanterns flying up, I do believe that for the first time, we got to see a high-res version of Yone, which is the place to celebrate the Blossom Festivals. The Blossom Festivals are celebrated all around Ionia, but the Spirit Blossoms don't bloom everywhere. And so there are specific places where you go to really celebrate this event. And Yone is one of them. It's a place that was referenced in many different stories. And this brings us back to Yone. You see, I really do believe that Yone is dead, but with the Spirit Blossom Festival, there are ways how Riot could bring him back. And that's why I am actually quite hopeful that Riot knows what they are doing, and they can actually make Yone's return make sense. You see, Lillia herself was born from one of these magical blooms. Yes, it seems to be a different kind of Spirit Blossom. It wasn't the one that captured souls, it was the one that captured dreams. But still, Lillia was born from that flower. So with that said, who's to say Yone can't be born from a Spirit Blossom? Under certain circumstances, I wouldn't be surprised if the soul of Yone went into a Spirit Blossom and somehow that Spirit Blossom bloomed into a new version of Yone. It wouldn't be entirely far-fetched, because the story was teasing at this possibility for quite a while. So again, I am hopeful. Not everything is lost yet. But that is it for this teaser. Once again, we saw a lot of skins here. Partially it was because Riot just wants to sell them, and so this is a really good way to advertise them. But also it could be because all the Spirit Blossom skins are actually canon legends from Ionia. Teemo is the mischievous spirit. Kindred have a canon Ionian version. Riven is yet to be decided. And Yone and Yasuo do have their own legend as well. If you are interested, that one appeared in the perennial story as well. But once we have all the info on the Spirit Blossoms, I might actually make a separate video explaining all of the skins, because there is a lot of references thrown around. But now, that is going to be it for this video. As I said, next video will be Lillia, despite me already being halfway done with the second part of the Sisterhood of War series. But that one will come after that, because even there we have references to Spirit Blossoms. This entire event is just one massive dump of content. And if you look at the client, there are even more days coming with more content in the future. I do believe that on one day, it will be the second wave of the skins with Cassiopeia, Riven, and Yone, and then another day it will be the second champion, Yone, which makes us go into a full circle. A month ago, we joked about this. I didn't think Riot would go there, and I didn't think it would be possible to pull it off. But here we are, bracing the arrival of Yone as if it was some kind of a boss fight. But with the level of toxicity Yasuo brought into the game, if Yone is anything like that, it might as well be a fight for years to come.